Hello and welcome. I'm Zach Martin for Westwood One Classic Rock with our very special guest giving us an exclusive, a Westwood One Classic Rock exclusive, that is, Jimmy Page. Now, Jimmy, these remasters must have been a big project for you. Did you start with the stereo masters of the album, or did you actually remix from the multi-track?
Well, what I wanted to do with this was go through all of the original reference tapes that I had. So that went back to 1968 and all through the years of the studio material, so that the mixes that were done of the time. So rather than revisiting multi-tracks and it'd just be a can of worms, with this it was going to make a much truer picture. Like, for example, the material you heard on from Led Zeppelin 3, it was going to give a much a more intimate picture of what was going on with the studio recording at the time. So it becomes like a window into it where you hear all this extra stuff. And the music itself is on the studio albums is really expansive and quite variant. However, this gives extra sort of insights into the picture of what was going on. And that's what I intended to do across all of the catalogue. And that's now you've heard the first three on its way.
Zach Martin with Jimmy Page. Now, Led Zeppelin 2 was recorded at various studios in the U.S. and the U.K. Was it harder this time to keep the album sounding consistent from song to song with today's higher-end remastering?
Well, it's quite right that we recorded in different studios across all of the albums, and different engineers were also employed across the albums as well. And different locations, the idea of it was to give a different sonic picture to each of the tracks. Now, I don't know whether I pulled that off, but pretty much that was the idea. So you've got that's how it gets to the point where we're doing recordings with a truck at Headley Grange, this famous thing with the fourth album and all of that. The character of these alternate versions or alternate mixes or whatever is still there, and you can still, I can hear the rooms that they've been done in, and as far as the modern remastering and all of that, I think it probably accentuates what you have.
Jimmy, you've said that there were some writing sessions with John and Jason after the reunion. Would you ever consider purposing some of that for your solo album? You could use a guest vocalist, like Robert Plant?
Well, I've got certainly the music that I was presenting there. I know what it was and what it is, and I could do that at any point of time, because it's a bit like the Led Zeppelin, or what I wrote with the Led Zeppelin. You can present it in so many different ways. Do you know what I mean? I think if you've got like a song or whatever, or a riff or whatever you've got, it can always be presented in so many different ways to change the sort of. It's got a character, but the different clothing that it's wearing. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I would definitely, and intend to be sort of. I've done this Led Zeppelin stuff for quite a while now, and as it's coming out over a couple of years, that gives me an opportunity to start concentrating on doing some live stuff. The person you're mentioning about singing, I think I'd concentrate more on initially on doing the instrumental side of things, and then bring in singers once the whole bed of it is constructed.
Zach Martin with Jimmy Page. Jimmy, you've worked with a number of vocalists over the years. Do you think you'd be more inclined to work with one singer on your next album, or do you think you'd want to work with a number of friends? Who might get that call? Paul Rodgers, Chris Robinson, David Coverdale, Lady Gaga?
No, I don't want you to mention any names, because you might think that I'm directing my answer to any one of the ones you've mentioned, and I certainly am not. I've been so lucky to work with all of those wonderful singers, and the cream of the crop, isn't it? Right through the board of it. But I've got to say that when you start talking about singers, and if people think you're doing something, things are singers are being thrown at you, and I just see that as a juggernaut. Do you know what a juggernaut is?
Yeah, it's like a tractor-trailer.
Tractor-trailer of politics.
Have you started sourcing any of the unreleased material that you've been using for the next wave of remasters? Is there anything that you can tease us with?
No. But the first answer is sort of yes. I've done all of the material, going through all of the studio albums that we know, like House of the Holy and Physical Graffiti Presence, Into the Outdoor, and Coda. All of the musical content is, like you've heard today, is the alternate mixes, and the companion audio is all completed.
Zach Martin along with Jimmy Page, our exclusive interview. Now, we get a lot of questions on Westwood One Classic Rock from listeners, and a lot of Zeppelin fans, they have a number of coveted releases, unreleased performances, I should say. Have you ever considered releasing more of the Earl Court 75 shows on video?
Well, I tell you what I've been considering over the last... It does run into about 3 years with trying to get the O2 celebration day out, because that was imperative that came out, because it was only the one concert, and we did really, really well. So it was important that there was a visual and sonic document of that, and then there was this real. Well, it's quite a long haul to do this properly. This thing that we're now talking about, and at the moment that. A lot of the releases you're mentioning, Earl's Court, and there was a bit of that on the Led Zeppelin DVD, wasn't there? So you've got these sort of things, but they're all, what are they? They're all live. So this is why it was so important, I felt, to get like this whole sort of studio balance out there. By the balance, I mean the sort of, scales.
Once again, some of the questions come from some of your biggest fans, and this might be a touchy subject for you, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Do you think we'll ever hear a solid recording of the 80 U.S. tour rehearsals with Carousel Umbra?
No. I guess, all of this sort of stuff sort of gains mythical proportions, and all I can say about the bootleg is that as far as I was concerned, I wanted to know every sort of bootleg that was out there as studio material. And I paid great attention to know what was out there, to make sure that what I was putting out was not what was already out there. So I paid a lot of attention to that. That's it, really. But all of this, what I'm trying to say, is so much time has been sort of devoted to this whole Led Zeppelin thing, that and it's worthy, it's the right thing to do, but I've got other things to do now.
Another listener question here from Chris. If wearing and tearing is the style direction you would have taken after In Through the Outdoor, did you ever get the feeling that John Paul Jones was trying to start that dialogue with his Zuma album in '98?
I don't know what unfortunately I can't give a good answer to that, because I don't know. He's obviously, the person who's asking this question knows his point of references. Wearing and tearing was something that was done at sort of a frenetic outflow of energy from all of us, and it was it was what was it? Okay, but it was okay. So wearing and tearing was just a real outpouring of energy, and it's really pretty aggressive. I wouldn't say that what would have come, and it's all hypothetical, isn't it? Wasn't going to be really fast and aggressive, and no, not at all. But it would have been pretty sexy.
Zach Martin along with Jimmy Page on Westwood One Classic Rock in our exclusive interview. Jimmy, did you feel a kind of pressure when you and Robert were recording Walking into Clarksdale?
Well, Walking into Clarksdale, he was very keen to, and that the guitar was not or overly orchestrated. He wanted to keep it quite sort of bare essentials. Well, I didn't mind that at all. I thought, yeah, sure, fine, I'm fine with that. So that's sort of how that was. It was pretty, almost minimalist.
Jimmy, there are so many rumors, myths, and legends about Led Zeppelin. What is the one that you would most like to dispel? Do you have any crazy tale that really did happen but never made it to the press?
Can I say that the way that I look at this and all of those sort of angles of like people's salacious sort of interests is that it doesn't really matter what or it doesn't bear any relevance to the music. It really doesn't. And no, you just mentioned like a shark. Who really cares how long a shark is? But they want to know how long one of the pieces of music is, because it's far more rewarding to listen to the music.
Now, you gave us some of the greatest concerts in history. What show did you attend as a spectator that really floored you?
Maybe one where I actually went there and was knocked out, the O2 concert. But I didn't see the band on that night. Well, if you think about it, because I was on stage. Yeah. But the O2 was a thrilling, awe-inspiring concert.
Yeah, that was quite a concert. Zach Martin here for Westwood One Classic Rock. Thank you very much, Jimmy Page.